watching Gearz.
Hey, welcome to Gearz. You know, one thing that you're going to find, if you're into modifying cars and trucks at all, and we hope that you are, is that eventually you're going to have to do some floor work, whether you want to or not. And doing floor work is not necessarily something you want to pay somebody to do because it can be pretty expensive. It's always better to buy the stuff and do it yourself. Now, it might be because the floors are rusted out, or somebody's butchered the vehicle, or maybe you have stuck in an engine and transmission that was never intended to be in that vehicle. Whatever the case, having solid floors is mandatory because this is what holds your behind in the vehicle. Unfortunately, it's also an area most people are afraid to dig into. So hopefully we're going to change that by showing you how to lay out a floor and put together an interior where there was nothing before. Now, the subject for our surgery today is the rat roaster. And believe it or not, it's very similar to a lot of the car and truck and 4x4 projects that you guys have out there sitting in the garage right now. You've got your chassis together and all laid out, got the body sitting down on top of it, got your engine and drivetrain in, so you're all happening there. But basically, you have a Flintstone mobile because you have no floor in it. And to make matters worse, there's no kit available because it's a unique project. There's no directions, there's no tech line to call for help. No, you are on your own. So what do? Well, the only thing you can do with a project like this is start at the beginning, decide what it is you're trying to accomplish, and then go from there. And that is what we're going to show you how to do. As you can see with this project, I not only don't have any front floors here, I've also got a massive TKO 5-speed sitting right in the middle that I had to make room for all the way back here into this rear floor. So I've got a lot of stuff to cover up here in the middle. Now, when I lay these floors out, I need to make sure that I cut some slots for my pedals to work correctly. I need to be keeping in mind that I'm going to have some sort of a steering column coming down here. And then I need to make sure I've got some access panels cut in here so I can get to my master cylinders. Then I want it all to be removable so I can take it out and work on stuff if I need to. Yeah, that's a lot of things to do. But now that we know what we want, all we have to do is start knocking these things out one by one. Before you know it, you're going to have some good floors. The first step is to lay out the pattern for the floor panels, and a cardboard template is the way to go here. As you lay this out, make sure that you leave at least a couple inches of clearance around the transmission to allow for movement and servicing. Now, this is also where you decide where to make your cuts for your access panels and your pedals. As you're building your templates, make sure that you keep checking the fit because this is what's going to make or break how well your floors fit. Now, the more time that you spend here working with cheap disposable cardboard, getting it right, the easier it's going to be down the road when you start building it in steel. Once you have it how you want it, then just transfer the shape to some sheet metal. Now, I am using this universal floor from Brookville Roadsters as a starting point, and for my center hump, I'm using this universal kit from Bitchin' Products. Now, the good thing about using these universal kits is that they will at least get you in the ballpark to start with. Once you have it all marked, cut it out. Now, you can use a jigsaw or a cut-off wheel or even a plasma cutter to do this, but I prefer a simple jigsaw because it's quick, it's very maneuverable, and the cuts are extremely clean so you don't have a lot of finished grinding to do. It's alive! That's just to show you, man, old tools don't ever die. Ever. All right, let's take a look what we got here. Yeah, we got good clearance around the pedals, got clearance down the side, and access to our master cylinders. Now all we have to do is the other side. And that is it. Now, I know some of you guys are going, man, that was easy. So the floors are done, right? No, you're about halfway done, because look at this. You don't have any strength out there. That's just a flat piece of sheet metal. That's not gonna hold anything. You need a lot more than that. The thing that you have to remember when you're building a floor like this, where there is nothing before, is you have to come from something strong, like a cross member, all the way to the firewall. Then you bridge that with whatever you're gonna do to go over the transmission. And then when you bolt all that stuff together, you're gonna have a nice strong structure here that you can actually jump up and down on. Now, to get the strength that we need into this floor pan, what I'm gonna do is build a perimeter frame around it using this 1/2-inch square tubing, because it's gonna fit right in that pocket really nice. So what we need to do is cut tubing and start laying it in place. Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where today's project is showing you how to build a custom floor for your rig from scratch. Now, some of you guys may be thinking, why in the world do I want to know how to do that? Well, the answer is very simple. No matter what you're working on, whether it be a car or a truck or a 4x4 or a street machine or an old hot rod, if you are sticking a different engine and transmission in it, or you're modifying the rig heavily, or it's rusty, well, chances are you're going to have to build a floor or at least modify the existing floor in it. And if you know how to do this, you can save yourself some serious money. All right, we've already got our floor pans formed and cut. We did that before the break. Now what we're working on is building a framework out of this square tubing that's not only going to support the floor, but it's going to tie the firewall together with this cross member, so we've got a nice strong structure here. Once you're happy with the fit of your tubing, just weld the frame together. Now, I'm using a TIG welder on these seams because it is so clean and precise and perfect for this small tubing. However, a MIG welder will work well too. At this point, we've got a couple of frames and a couple of floor pans, and obviously they need to be connected together. But before we do that, we are going to roll some beads in these pans, because not only will that add strength to the pans, but it's going to look really good too. It's going to make these front floors match the floors that are already in the car. So the first thing we're going to do is lay out where we want the beads to go. Now on these particular pans, we're going to put them about 3 inches apart. Then we'll just roll the beads using the bead roller. Now we are finally ready to connect the pan and the frame, and we're going to do that with spot welds. So the first thing you need to do is drill some holes in the pan about 2 inches apart. The final piece is this access panel cover that is going to cover up this opening for the master cylinders. Now, all you have to do is cut this out of a bare piece of sheet metal, and then the trick to making this fit is to flange the edges with one of these flanging tools. Now, let me show you a little trick here. Notice that 3 of the sides are flanged up, 1 side is flanged down. That is so the piece will slide under the pan and lay flush. Look at this, no gaps, nice flush mount. That looks great. Now, the moment of truth. How do they look in the car? Let's check it out. Hopefully, you're gonna have some nice flush mounting floors that match everything else and look like they came from the factory. Yeah, this is cool. Now, the mounting points are here on the side. Gonna drill some more holes in the back so it'll bolt to this cross member, and then drill some holes up here so it'll mount to the firewall, so you're nicely mounted all around. Got the support running down the side, so that will support what you do over the center hump. So now you have a strong floor. Now, if you are going to build your car and put some mirrors up underneath, and you don't want people to see this framework, well, all you've got to do is cut yourself another piece of sheet metal, roll the beads in it, weld it on, and the bottom will look just like the top. That will be slick. That's what I'm going to do to this car. Now, I know you guys are wondering what we're doing with the center hump. Like I said before, I took a universal kit from Bitchin' Products, and I've modified it to where it will clear the transmission, added a piece of steel in here, and it's going to go together like this, and then mount to the supports we put along the sides. That's going to be a nice solid piece. Now, I know you're wondering about this area here. Well, I'm going to have to hand make that, but I'm going to have to wait on that because that's going to tie in with how I do my pocket here for the distributor and what I'm going to do with the gas pedal, because it's all going to mount in here. So we'll take care of that on another day. All right, now that we've got some strong floors in there, we're going to deal with where to park your behind, because seats are next. Hey, welcome back to Gearz. If you're just getting here, you've missed a bunch, because today we're showing you how to fabricate custom floors to fit your rig and show you that you can build just about anything if you match your creativity with some fabrication skills, some universal kits, and some tools. Even if you're never going to tackle a project as advanced as the floors of the rat roaster, at least now you know what's involved in building something like this and why it would cost a lot of money to have somebody do this for you. Now, the next step to laying out a solid interior is a lot easier than building floors, but every bit as important, and that involves laying out your seats. Now, this isn't just bolting some seats in. No, this is also choosing the right seats for your application. Let me show you what I'm talking about. As you can see, the aftermarket is full of all kinds of really cool seats. So the question is, where do you start? Well, you've got to go back to your criteria. Remember, the rat roaster is being built as a car that looked like it rolled down the street in 1968. So as cool as all of these high back buckets are, these are just not the right seats. They don't have the right vibe. Now, you can go with an original style bench seat like the Deuce came with. I mean, guys, we're still doing this in '68. But if you wanted a real gear jamming, street racing hot rod from that era, man, you had to have bucket seats. Not just something out of a Mustang or a Camaro, racing buckets, like these from Speedway Motors. This is one of Speedway's all-aluminum bomber seats, which has exactly the look and the attitude that we're after. Check this out. It's got holes punched in the back and on the bottom. It's got a nice rolled lip all the way around it. You've got this little lip down here in the front, lightweight aluminum, and it has a 20-degree layback here, so this thing is actually comfortable to sit in. However, we are not putting it in the car just like this. No, a bare bomber seat is more of a late 50s look. To hit our era, we have got to have some upholstery on this, and that is sitting right over here. Trent from Trent's Trick Upholstery is one of the premier interior guys in the business. So I sent him a rendering of what I wanted. He stitched up some really cool vintage covers. Take a look. Now, he started with heavy-duty vinyl that looks like distressed leather, and then he stitched up this top that snaps all the way around the perimeter. Then he built this seat cushion. It snaps in place on this lip in the front, so it not only looks really cool, it also gives me some padding for those long trips. Then, of course, the crowning jewel is the diamond pattern. I mean, there's nothing more 60s hot rod than that. Now, I know some of you guys are wondering how Trent got this padding around the sides and across the back. We're going to show you how he put these things together. He started out with a wire screen to prevent the foam from coming through the holes. Then he custom formed a foam pad to cover and contour the back and sides. We'll just hold that in place with a little 3M adhesive. Then the custom stitch cover slides down over the seat back and the foam and just snaps in place. Follow that with the seat cushion and you are ready to go. Okay, now comes the big issue. You got your seats. How are you gonna mount them in? I mean, obviously nothing's just gonna bolt right in place. No, we're gonna deal with that in just a minute. Roll it, Matt. Hey, we're back, and the subjects we're covering today are building floors and laying out the seating in your project. Both very important projects. Now, we've already showed you the custom seats that are going in the rat roaster. Now the question is, how do you mount those seats in that vehicle and still have them sit right and be adjustable? Well, obviously, you need some seat tracks. So we got these universal seat tracks from Summit Racing, and as you can see, they're not too bad the way they sit. But if you are going to spend this much time and this much effort building something like this, you don't want not bad. You want them to fit right. You want it to look right. So, as you can see, it'd be a lot nicer if that seat track fit underneath the seat a little bit, kind of hide it. And then, of course, you got this big long piece back here that just looks goofy, so that needs to be shortened. So what we're going to do is modify this seat track so it custom fits this seat. Here's how to do it. The first step is to narrow the track by cutting 1 inch out of the center supports. Then we'll whack 1.5 inches off those rear posts. Follow that up by welding it all back together. And grinding it down. Now, I know that these changes are subtle. Seems like a lot of work for some subtle changes. But trust me, it's going to make a big difference. Check this out. Yeah, that's more like it. Now that seat frame now fits the seat perfectly. Now all we have to do is bolt the seat to the frame and get the whole assembly into the car. Okay, positioning a seat can be a little time-consuming, because the first thing you want to make sure is that you're not sitting too high. Ideally, you want to look right through the center of the windshield. Now, keep in mind, we got a 2-inch chop here, so I'm going to be sitting lower in this car than you normally would, which is another reason why the bench seat would not have been a good choice here. Now, as you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're centered over your pedals and where your steering column is going to be. Here's my marks for the steering column, so we're doing all right there, getting pretty close. You also want to remember where your transmission is, where your shifter is going to come up, and how you're going to clear your door when you're working your pedals. You don't want to get too far this way. While you're doing that, you want to make sure that you've got your full range of motion for the seat so you can pull it back and forward if you need to do that. So you can see there's a lot of stuff to do here. Be prepared to spend some time. Now, once you have it all dialed in the way you want it, it's just a matter of bolting it down to the floor, and you are going to have a one-of-a-kind floor and seating setup. It's going to have the look that you want, but it's going to have the usability and adjustability that you need. That is great. Now, the next time that you see the rat roaster, we're going to start putting some stuff on here and tying it into other iconic things from '68 that are going to make it truly unique and definitely the baddest thing in the valley. Let's get a little ventilation here. There we go.
And now, what are you working on?
Today's What Are You Working On is not only a cool story, it's inspiring. It comes from a guy named Bill Hamill and his son Jason, and they live in Jamestown, Rhode Island. Now, according to Bill, here's the story. Started with Jay's first bike. Here's a picture of it. He rode it in the dirt all the time, started racing BMX, won all kinds of trophies, and then at age 19, he broke his neck at the track and he ended up paralyzed. Now, you would think the story ends there. No, just gets started, because Bill said that he kept riding, but he felt guilty without having Jay. So, here's what he did. He took his 2003 Honda Valkyrie motorcycle, did a custom paint job and bodywork on it, punched out the motor to where it's over 100 horsepower, and it runs in the mid-12s in the quarter mile. That was for Bill. Now for Jason, he built a custom sidecar. Check this thing out. It's got its own swing arm system, its own coil-over adjustable shock, disc brake system, and to load Jay up, they just roll him in the back, strap him down, and they go for a ride. Here's a shot of them out at a motorcycle event enjoying the bike. That's great. At this point, Bill thought, you know, if it works for Jason, why don't I do it for other people? So that's what he started doing. He started giving other disabled people rides in their wheelchairs. By his own words, he said it hasn't failed to bring tears of joy to everybody involved and build some lifelong relationships too. So here's a guy that not only builds a really cool thing, but he's using it to do some really cool stuff. Now, he kind of sums it up with this statement here. He said his reason for doing that is to show people that there is still fun to be had in life, even if you're disabled. And to prove that, here's a shot of his son Jason now leading a productive life at his computer. Now, the last thing that Bill says, he said, please feel free to give out the email address and information to anyone who wants some information or would like to go for a ride. Man, I can't think of anybody that wouldn't want to take you up on that, Bill. Great job. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get your vehicle on the show, send some stuff to GearzTV.com. We'll see if we can get it on the air. All right, it takes care of it today. Get out there and work on something. We'll see you next week.